Good afternoon, everyone. This is Andy Deyell, your Vice President for Institutional Advancement, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular web series where we check in with our alums all over the United States and see what they've been up to since their time at 1180 Delaware here in Buffalo. And today I am joined all the way from the Boston area by a very special guest, Mr. Dennis McCleary from the class of 1970, where Dennis is in Boston now, where he is the Director of Business Recruitment for the Notre Dame Cristo Race School in Methuen. And so, Dennis, welcome, and how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Andy, for having me.
Great. We're going to get into your story. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of how you found yourself at Canisius, but we're going to talk a lot about your time after Canisius, and we're going to hope to get some advice from you. You've had a good, long career, and you've done a lot of really cool things. Including a free agent signing by the Buffalo Bills, which we'll get into in a little bit. But take me back. If you're class of 1970, that means in 1966, you arrive at Canisius High School in Buffalo, New York. Where did you grow up, and how did you hear about Canisius, and what made you decide to go there?
Yeah, it's a pretty good story. I mean, I grew up in North Buffalo. I come from a family of 7. My dad passed away when I was 11, so I didn't, my mom, was with the 7 kids, and my 2 older brothers were kind of wild and went to public school. It was like poor thing was like herding cats, But I was fortunate enough to have my uncle, who was a pretty smart guy. He went to St. Joe's, and he went on and played football at Georgetown. And he kind of mentored me, and which I'll get into a little bit later, the mentoring aspect. And he took me to a couple schools. I visited St. Joe's, where he went to school. And I visited Nichols, where my dad went to school, and then finally Canisius. And I remember meeting with Johnny Barnes, and that kind of sealed the deal. Right. He just is a great guy, and I miss him. I used to talk to him all the time, obviously in school, but after school at Boston College as well. So he kind of sold the deal. I liked the atmosphere. I met a few of the teachers, and that was it,
And aside from Coach Barnes, who were some of your early influences at Canisius High School?
Yeah, I would say, Mr. Skipper. I don't know if you remember Jim Skipper. So yeah, great guy. He coached me in JV basketball, and I had him for gym and whatnot. But he kind of was a big influence. And believe it or not, Father Sturm. I mean, the first couple of years at Canisius for me were pretty tough, academically, socially, everything. And he reeled me in, if you will. And we had a couple heart-to-heart talks, and because I was thinking about leaving, and he kind of kept me on track in more ways than one, using Jug as a big influence. And then there was Mr. O'Connor, my math teacher, great guy. He kind of treated us as adults, if you will. He didn't spoon feed us at all. He just treated us like regular guys. And he took me aside a couple of times. We had nice talks. And then there was Mr. Mack, of course, who was he coached me in basketball. He coached me. I played baseball my freshman year. He coached me in basketball my junior and senior year, and had him for math, had him for Latin. So obviously he was in my life a lot at Canisius. But yeah, those were probably the biggest influences, I would say.
And you had a very decorated athletic career here at Canisius High School, which led to a college scholarship to Boston College. Talk a little bit about your time at Boston College, your time there as a football player, and sort of what that led to post-college.
Yeah, so again, getting into the mentoring aspect, I got recruited by a guy named Bill Campbell, and he was my position coach, and he came out and started recruiting me my junior year. And I've been recruited by a few colleges in my junior year, and Coach Barnes was chirping in my ear. He's kept on telling me, you got to think about Boston College. I said, Coach, I never heard of Boston College. And he said, oh, no, you got to think about them. Those Jesuits will take care of you.
Sure.
So, I went out and visited BC. I made a few other visits to colleges, and I don't know, BC, you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of a Canisius High School on steroids.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Jesuits out there, obviously, but the feel of the campus was the same, and So anyways, I got recruited. I decided to go there, and Coach Campbell, like, he's a big academic guy. He went to Columbia undergrad, Columbia Graduate School.
Wow.
And back then we didn't have academic advisors. He was my academic advisor. And he would make sure I took the right courses. I was progressing as I should. And, it all worked out. And I ended up having a pretty good football career. And again, if I got out of line off the field, he would be in my face. He was like my dad. I mean, he was unbelievable. The stories I can tell you about the things he did for me, probably illegal and the eyes of the NCAA, but he was definitely my mentor.
Sure.
And then after my junior year, I got dinged up a little bit, but I had a good pro day and got kind of recruited by the Bills to try out. And I did, and I signed a free agent contract. And I lasted, a couple months. It was a lot of fun working out there in the summertime with these guys. And I had 2 teammates from Boston College there at the time, so we had a lot of fun.
And that was just right. Was that Rich Stadium where you guys were? Because that had opened.
Yeah, it was brand new stadium. Yep, we used to play racquetball down there in the stadium and lift weights. And I remember Joe Ferguson playing. He would play badminton. He was a big badminton guy. So, anyways, we had a lot of fun. We worked concerts there. We go out and play golf everywhere we worked out. Really good group of guys.
And when you think back, sort of to Canisius High School. What are some of those lessons that you learned that got you through Canisius, that got you through Boston College, and then took you into sort of your work life?
Yeah, Canisius, as I said, was tough in the beginning, and I was having a hard time. I was struggling, but what kept me going was my group of friends, my teammates, my classmates, and we became really tight. And what I learned at Canisius was, because I was being mentored by my coaches and teachers and my, Coach Campbell, I think I carried that with me, and I still to this day like to mentor young kids. That's what I'm doing what I'm doing now. Sure. And I still keep in touch with my classmates. And what I could tell the students there now, or the young alumni, is when you make friends, good friends, stay in touch, be loyal to them. Sure. And it's easy to do now. Back then we didn't have we didn't have email and texting, but make sure you stay in touch with them. I still get together with 8 of my high school buddies. We're going down to Scottsdale this December to play golf and hang out and talk about Canisius stories. It's 50 years later. It's crazy, but I think that's. And Canisius, by the way, they also teach you obviously academics, being able to judge your time and keep track of your time, but also socially, athletically, it just made you a better person all around. And those are things that you need later on in life when you get into college. And you got to keep in touch, network. I recommend getting on LinkedIn. You can do it now in high school. Sure. And start networking, because, and never forget where you came from, because it's just important that you have to remember where your roots are. And I try to do that with Canisius and my high school buddies.
I mean, it's a great segue, talking about networking. I mean, you spent a long time, a long career in sales before you ended up at this current position, sort of giving what you got, is like how I like to say it. But even then, right, your networks and your connections. So talk a little bit about your professional career and sort of your path there. And I think you were pretty well traveled in sales. And so tell us a little bit about sort of how you got your start professionally and where you spent most of your career.
Yeah, so after football, I came back to Boston, and I felt like I had a better opportunity there because I made a name for myself in sports and whatnot. So. And then I started interviewing, and I was tending bar while I was doing this interviewing stuff. And again, that helps you with the sales profession a little bit. Sure. So lo and behold, I get a call from one of the coaches at BC saying, "Hey, they're interviewing out at Chrysler." So I started working at Chrysler and did that for several years, and then I got recruited by another company, Lindy Union Carbide, and I worked for them. And 2 completely different industries I knew nothing about before I started, but because if you learn to be personable and make friends and be social and be the first guy to go up and shake someone's hand in a room, you can sell anything.
Right.
So here I am selling cryogenic systems at Union Carbide. And then I got into the printing and marketing business. And again, that was through a BC football teammate. And so I did, I sold printing and advertising for a long time. And then kind of retired from that several years ago. And for the last 5 years, I've been recruiting companies to hire our students at Notre Dame Cristo. And I'm enjoying every bit of it because I feel like I've gone full cycle here. I came from the same kind of background as these kids.
Sure.
But our kids are all of color. That's the only difference. My family didn't have any money. We had a lot of kids in the family, a lot of mouths to feed. We couldn't afford an education, and Canisius provided me that, and so did Boston College. So I just want to give these kids an opportunity to do the same.
Yeah, and so for our viewers who don't know what the Cristo Rey model is about, talk a little bit about sort of that model and what sort of how did you get involved with them? At what point did you say, I got some juice left in the tank here, and I'd like to spend it, with these underprivileged kids that need my help?
Yeah, I can blame my older daughter for that because she worked at the Cristo Rey in Boston. And
Nice.
she told me about this school that opened up in our area in Lawrence, and now we moved to Methuen. And I just thought it sounded like a cool opportunity. And as I went through the interview process and met the students and the faculty and the leadership, I said, this is perfect for me. So the school operates, there's 40 schools like ours around the country. Headquarters is in Chicago, started by 2 Jesuits. And all the kids have to qualify economically. So they have to come from a family that's at or below poverty level, and they have to qualify academically, just like in Canisius. They have to take the entrance exam. So they got to be smart. And then we have to interview them, make sure they're hireable, because they have to go out and work in the workplace 1 day a week. And that's where I come in. I recruit companies to hire the students. The students work 1 day a week. The companies pay us, and it pays for 60% of their tuition. Our tuition isn't as, I don't know what Canisius is now, but ours is like about 14,000 out here. Mm-hmm. And it's a college preparatory education. And the rest of the money is paid for through donations and one fundraiser we have a year. And having said all that, our success rate is unbelievable. Since 2010, we've graduated 100% of our students, and also 100% get accepted to a 4-year college every year. And every single kid gets a scholarship of some sort to college.
That's incredible. And I can't help but think that sort of the roots that you were sort of grown at Canisius High School, and this idea of, giving back, this idea of being a man for others, it hasn't influenced that a little bit.
Absolutely. I think about it all the time, and I tell the students at where I work the same thing. I say, I look a little bit different than you, but I came from the same kind of background, and I had someone, mentor me. So I try to, emphasize that with them all the time, just try to learn from your teachers, ask them questions, and try to, eventually it'll happen naturally. A mentor will come to you, but just be open-minded and listen to your teachers. They're trying to help you, trying to make you a better person. And that's what Canisius did for me.
That's great advice. It's great advice. So as you look back, and we have a group, our students will be watching this, our young alums will be watching these kind of videos. What kind of advice do you have for our young alums and our students today as they're about to either make their way to college or out into the work world for the first time? What would you tell them?
Yeah, again, I would first of all be very social, with with LinkedIn, and sure. Follow up with your classmates, stay in touch, go to your reunions, mm-hmm. Stay in touch with even your teachers.
Right.
And again, that mentoring aspect, I think what Canisius is doing right now with the houses, how you have the students broken down by every class is represented in each house, is fantastic, because now these kids are learning to be mentors at a young age, whether they realize it or not, right? So I think that's a big part of it. I think Canisius is kind of like what I experienced at BC with my football teammates. We call it a brotherhood, and I think Canisius is the same thing. It's a fraternity or a brotherhood. So you know, just keep that in the back of your mind and try to stay in touch and do whatever you can to help out the school some way or another. If you can't do it financially, volunteer.
Right. That's great. And
Yeah.
other than golf with your high school buddies, what does the future hold for Dennis McCleary and his family? What are your plans?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to do this for another couple of years until I can't do it anymore physically, but I think I'm in pretty good shape. The mind, you know, I haven't had any issues with health wise yet, knock on wood. But you know, right now I'm living, you know, next to my daughter and my son-in-law and my 2 grandkids, and we have an addition that is connected by a door, and I could see them. And I eventually want to spend more time with them and do some traveling. But right now, life is good. It's, you know, I'm enjoying the job, enjoying helping kids out. Going to BC, I still go to BC football games. I run a tailgate for the football alumni every home game. So life is pretty good right now.
That's great. And it's really nice to hear how you've stayed involved with all of your schools and sort of mentors along the way, and how you've constantly been, you know, itching to give back. And so I think it's a really great role model for all of the students that we have out there, not just at Canisius, but also at Cristo Rey and anybody else that knows you. So Dennis, thank you so much for spending some time today with us, telling us a little bit about your story and catching up. And I hope the next time, I hope you get to Buffalo real soon, and we'll see you back on campus again soon.
Yeah, and go Bills.
Go Bills. Thanks a lot, Dennis. Talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Bye.